Ready. It'll be on my timeline.
This is fun.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be. It is Paula Middleton from Manchester in the UK. Hi. I
Hello
hope
there.
everybody is well. We're coming to you live from Dragonflies Den, and we've got a guest on tonight that I'll introduce in a moment. But first of all, I'm joined here tonight by Mahmuda Hill.
Hiya.
Shell Evans.
Hey.
And Daryl Gorman, who's muted at the moment.
Hi, sorry, it's just my talking.
It's okay. That's okay. And we do have a special guest on this evening. Coming to us all the way from Canada, we've got Mr. Jeff Monkman. Hi.
Hello there, guys.
Yeah.
Now we're going to have a chat. We're going to have a chat with Jeff. He's a musician and he has been all around the world singing and in his band. And we're going to hear about some of the places that he stayed, some of the places that you've actually lived as well, Jeff.
Yeah.
And if you are catching this live, give us a hashtag live. If you're catching this on replay, give us a hashtag replay. And if Jeff talks about a place that is on your bucket list, give us a hashtag bucket list and tell us where it is, because we're going to be talking about quite a few places all around the world. So Jeff, tell us about yourself. It's good to see you.
Oh, good to see you. Yeah, I've been in the music industry, I guess professionally about 30 years now. Started traveling with original bands and that, recording acts in Europe around 97. And then from that point, I noticed that there was a market for show bands and stuff like that in five-star hotels. So then I got into that circuit. And so yeah, I freelanced like that with many different projects. And yeah, it's been great, you know, good experiences. And nice to see the world and work and be immersed in cultures and places, right? So
yeah,
you know, it wasn't just like a holiday. I basically would spend like 3 to 6 months for each contract, and many of them, once you were on the circuit, you would just rotate. So for wherever it may be, right? So it's like, yeah.
So did you work with the same band members each time, or was it different each time, or what kind of relationships did you build up with the people that you worked with? Was it regular, the same people each time, or?
Sometimes we had a core. For instance, I'll start with the latest project I was in. There were two members from. We had a band called Unity, and it was two members from Montreal. So there was a core of us from Canada. So we were backline musicians. Backline meaning the back musicians that support the frontline singers. So basically, we had that core for a while, for like I guess about 4 years, and then but usually the singers would change. I don't know why that is. A lot of times too, depending on what the hotel would want. Like management companies, we would sell ourselves, right? And then we'd give them options for what type of singer they think would be great for their club, and voice, right? I mean, so basically we gave them that option. It was a good way to market ourselves like that, because it didn't pigeonhole us either, and we were able to. It's like supply and demand, basically, as far as that went. So so basically, yeah, we would go like that. A lot of times we would just meet them there and have one day for rehearsals and one day for sound check and another finish up rehearsal, and then we'd go on.
Wow.
So,
wow, now that is out of your comfort zone. That, I mean, just going straight into that is amazing. Well done.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to meet a lot of people. It's the experiences. I could go on for days about the experiences, because every situation is different, and with whether it be with the club or the artists themselves, just traveling, you know, you encounter all sorts of interesting situations, I would say,
Yes,
you
yeah.
know, and that. So, especially in different countries where work visas aren't given out right away, you have to enter as a tourist. So you're kind of going under the radar because you're
Yeah.
coming in with gear. So many times you would have to go ahead and just make up a story. So you can't, it could be risky in certain places, right? But and then there were other times too where it's tourist visas were, or work visas were given out, and it wasn't a problem that way. But yeah, so and there was other projects where I went in where I didn't know anyone, and nobody knew anyone, and we would just go in. The agent put the because it seems that a lot of agents out there are into psychology and or have a degree. So what they would do is when you get interviewed with the for the project, they'd suss you out that way, and then what type of personalities they would figure out. And actually, they were generally spot on.
That's an
Right?
interesting way of doing it. Wow.
Yeah, so
I can imagine though, if you're all thrown in at the deep end, so to speak, then you're
well,
going
it's
to build up those connections, aren't you, pretty quick? So yeah,
sure. Well, it's a HR aspect, right? I mean, obviously, if they're in that business, they would have to because there's been times where we didn't have that, and things were just slapped together, and I could always get the feeling right away that I'm like going, oh, I don't know. And we had that experience going to Abu Dhabi last year or year before. It seems like this year didn't happen. Like it's been a blur, right?
don't
But
talk about that year 2020.
yeah,
No, we'll just erase it.
yeah. So basically, and I noticed, I knew right away, and I was like, oh, and sure enough, we did have problems with a couple members because even just getting the thing going, there was a lot of bravado and ego right off the hop. You could feel it from them, and I was like, "Well, I don't know." But so sometimes you get in those situations, but people are easily replaceable out on these circuits, so it's able to get things sorted pretty quickly.
So I guess it kind of goes in your favor if you get on with people because you're not going to be
Yeah.
replaced then. So I've got a
Well,
couple.
sorry.
No, it's
Yeah.
all right. I've
Yeah.
got a couple of really quick random questions for you.
Sure.
And now we're talking about from 1997 until 2019 that you've traveled the world, and you've more or less lived out of five-star hotels for most of that time, haven't you? So I want to know, where is your favorite location that you visited and why? That's number one.
Well, I
How
really
hard is that? That is such a difficult question. I apologize in advance.
well, yeah, because it's really relative, and again, embracing the situation is part of the whole deal when you're traveling like that is to go ahead and really have an open mind, right, to every situation. So, of course, there's pros and cons with every.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you are, right? People always say the grass is greener or whatever, but there's always, But I would say Kuala Lumpur.
Kuala Lumpur. Okay. Yeah.
In Malaysia, that one, it was amazing. We were working at the Hilton, at a club called Zeta Bar. So it was 6 days a week, but the hotel itself is fantastic. The accommodations, everything outstanding. And we weren't treated like staff at that gig. It was like we were treated like a guest, right? So it wasn't, because some of the hotels, they'll put you in different living situation than the rest of the hotel, but this one didn't. And but the city itself, just the infrastructure in the city, and that just has such a cosmopolitan feel, but at the same time, it's like a giant park.
Yeah.
It's so much greenery and everything, but it's super cosmopolitan. The food choices, just generally speaking. And I was going to say, actually, Manny Pacquiao was training downstairs, and they had it set up, locked off, and I was like, what's going on in there. So then I asked the front desk, and front desk said, yeah, Manny Pacquiao's. So I ended up hanging around with Manny Pacquiao's manager. He would come into the club and come watch us and stuff. And I got talking to him one night, and then we just kind of connected like that. And he gave us tickets and VIP passes, but we couldn't because we were leaving the gig. And one of the things is the hotel is responsible for the players in the project, right? So basically what happens is you have to go according with everything, because you're exiting the country. They're responsible for you because of that work visa, so forth. So you have to exit because they're responsible for you. Can't hang around, because now you're staying over your visa, right? So
you can get in big trouble for that. So yes.
Yeah, big time.
Does anyone have any questions or anything they'd like to ask Jeff at all?
Did you get much time for actually going out and visiting, historical sites, tourism sites, or did you were working and didn't get any time?
Well, it would depend on the gig. Some gigs there would be in-house audio technicians, so we wouldn't have to worry about that aspect. Other times I would go into gigs depending on where it was, and I was the audio tech. So then I'm fixing gear. Some of the gear was really a shambles. Actually, the Hilton in Abu Dhabi was like that. And I talked to the GM there, and I ended up being able to get a bunch of new gear in and stuff and fixed up. So I got a thank you from him to do that, because, it's hard on the artist when they go in and you're worrying about that stuff. You should be just worrying about going ahead and playing and so forth. So, and working properly and doing your job, right? So, so it would depend on the gig whether or not I would have time to go out. But yeah, for instance, the first gig I ever did, I couldn't believe it, because the first gig I did in Middle East area was Dubai. And back then, when I heard about Dubai, I didn't really know it, because internet wasn't really a common thing back then. It was just very basic and stuff. And even on TV, you wouldn't see much about that area, And so anyway, I won't get into the political side of what my thoughts are on that whole thing from back then. But anyhow, so I didn't know where I was really going. So I remember landing, and I was like, geez, I guess there was a sandstorm just earlier, so you really couldn't see the city coming in. So we came in, landed. I'm like, geez, what did I get myself into? Where am I going? So we ended up getting out of the airport. It was just unbelievably beautiful. And then they traveled, took us, the liaison came to get us, and then we took off and down towards the hotel, and I was just amazed. There was Planet Hollywood, Hard Rock Cafe, like all these different, and I was just, I couldn't believe it going into that. I was like a dream.
I can imagine it's kind of
it's really somewhere you have to go to Dubai.
I've not been yet, but I do plan on going, and I think all of us here pretty much want to go, don't we?
Yeah.
But I can imagine it's like being in sort of another world in some ways, but then so familiar, because you've got those familiar sort of restaurants and things like that. So yeah, I can't wait to go. I'm really looking forward to it. Anyone else?
The whole thing is like even.
Go on, it's okay, Jeff. Jeff, you go. I think we've got a time delay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that in itself, and then once I got settled there and that, just to see everything, I was just blown away. Really, it felt to me like back then, it felt to me like stepping ahead 30 years in the future, just because of the building design, architecture, infrastructure, the highways, whatever, you name it. I'm just like, well, even the Burger King, I walked in and it was like, wow, this is like a fancy restaurant, like, comparatively speaking to North American Burger Kings. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, what is this? Even the Whopper looked exactly like the Whopper, it's like on the picture, everything perfect, pristine, everything's new. So it's really something to see. But over the years, when I have gone there, progressively, it's just amazing. because the first time I went 2002, and then again I was playing in 2006 there, and within 4 years they built a whole new highway, and there's brand new areas of skyscrapers. It's just, you know. And then the last time I was there too was 2018, because we were playing Abu Dhabi, so I drove. It's an hour and a half drive. I drove to Dubai again, just progressively, because I went 2002, 2006, 2010, 2012, 2015, and then 18. But progressively each time I went, it was like, wow, what
There was
happened
more.
now? There was more, right? It was just,
Well, they need to come to Manchester, because I've got some apartments around the corner from me, and I think it's took them about 4 years to just build like a block. So they need whoever's building
yeah,
those,
well,
those
yeah,
places
exactly.
in Dubai, they
Well,
need to come around to Manchester.
well, there's a place just down the street, down McPhillips here, and they've been screwing around with that underpass for the past 15 years. I'm like, what is going on? They're building a new building, but hey, let's face it, money, right? Money,
Yeah,
infrastructure,
yeah.
you know, it goes a long way. And as well, the construction at night, why, I don't know why they don't do that here, because it always seems to be during the day. And then it's to get people, you know, you can't do the same job at nighttime. They'll put in a whole strip of highway, right, in Dubai, right? So like for a few miles, right? It's like, it's pretty amazing, you know.
It is. It sounds incredible. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
I,
Maybe slightly dumb question because of the kind of audiences you have, but did you, well, were they all multinational audiences, or did you have localized audiences in various places?
I'm so sorry. It was breaking up there when you asked the question.
When you traveled to these places, were the audiences mostly multinational, or were they localized in other places?
Oh, I got you. Yeah, I mean, really, with a place like Dubai, it's a hub, right? So it's people from everywhere.
The reason I ask is because when I was traveling around, I'd find audience reactions would differ incredibly from one area or location to another. And I just wondered if you felt that at any time as well.
Well, you know, the whole thing is, it's back then when I initially started on the circuit and stuff like that, even the agents and hotels, they always want to hire bands from the West or UK or Australia or whatever. I guess it's just the music industry. They looked at it like, you know, we're the musicians in the forefront, so to speak, whether it's Bryan Adams or whoever, right? So it's quite popular. Like I couldn't believe there was some Canadian artists that they listened to there when I first played in Bahrain, like Loverboy, and that's just a local Canadian band, but they were popular over there. I couldn't believe it, right? So the music, really, we didn't have to adjust other than for that area, because they're actually way ahead when it comes to current dance, R&B, this new urban music, things of that nature. They were way far. So it's really slick and kind of sexy, really. It's like very urban, like you go into a club there and stuff like that. It's very high end. The music, even maybe techno feel, house kind of, with, you know, I don't know, like yeah. So it's basically that, right? It's like yeah. So we didn't really have to go ahead and conform too much, other than play just really current stuff, long and short of it. But depending on the gig, like say for instance in Morocco, we did more African beat stuff, and world beat kind of stuff. You know, China, they didn't care at all what we played, except that they wanted to hear some Chinese tunes. So our singers had a heck of a time trying to learn how to speak Mandarin or Chinese, to learn even 1 or 2 songs. It would take us 3 weeks, because it's not because of the tune, but it's just because of the lyrics, right? So yeah, depending on a club, and then managements would talk to us as well. If they wanted us to gear towards a certain style and that, but basically all the international clubs were the same, basically. Yeah. Sorry for being long-winded with my answer.
When I met you in Morocco, the hotel we were staying at, we had the locals come into the clubs as well, didn't we? So there was the locals coming in, people staying in the hotels as well. So you're playing to a variety of people. You've got the international people who are coming on holiday, and you've also got the locals.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was fun. I enjoyed that a lot, actually. Like, just, and then you learn about the music scene in the area as well and stuff like, and some areas I found were really like into Latin, say, for instance, or, but what I found was with all those kinds of cities, and I don't know why I consider them, and I don't know if this is kind of a cheeky thing to say, but they just felt a lot more cosmopolitan than, say, Winnipeg, right? It's like, so when you go there and stuff, and you just learn about that scene. But what I found was with most of those places, those cities and that, they're very much into, like I said, the urban kind of music. I would call it urban music because it's like world beat stuff. So anything that's current, like like whether it's Latino, reggae, R&B, any of that kind of. So, and it was a lot different for me to learn all that because I played, I started out as a rock musician, but I enjoyed it so much, and then I found out I was so happy to play all this kind of music. And so it's, it's pretty cool.
I don't think you've mentioned what you actually do as a musician. You haven't said what you play. What instrument do you play? I think it's broken up.
I wonder why we're breaking up. Do you want me to come try to rejoin my?
No, it's okay. You stay where you are. It's fine.
I was saying, Jeff, that you haven't mentioned what instrument you played.
Well, I play bass guitar and vocals. Little bit of acoustic as well. That's my main. And there's a lot of. It's funny when it comes to marketing and stuff like that, but packaging yourself as an overall musician, I found was more beneficial to me than just being a bass player, so to speak. So whether it's performance aspect of it, or the PR aspect of it, or a little bit of everything, or maybe I do sound and play bass and sing a bit, these kinds of things. So being overall was more beneficial than just focusing, because there's some guys that are just amazing bass players and they fly around like crazy, but you
have a lot of energy when you're on stage, though.
They're not too happy looking on stage or whatever. What's that?
Did you have a lot of energy when you're on stage?
What's that, sorry?
Did you have a lot of energy?
Yeah, I like having. Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I like having fun with the crowd and stuff.
And talking about the crowd, Jeff, I've got a question for you that I'm sure everyone in Facebook land is wondering as well. I want to know, where has the craziest audience and where has the most quiet and calm audience of the places you've visited?
Craziest audience, I would say, would have been in China. Like when I was in Chengdu, it's like, I mean, people there, they get off work and they go to the club to have something to eat and some drinks after. It's part of the culture there, I found, to entertain your business associates. So what would happen, they're still in their suit and tie and their office attire, corporate attire. And the club would be slammed when we get there, which is great because, I mean, we get there at 9. So I'm like, well, this is going to be easy, because it's always easy when there's a big crowd. If it's no people, and it's, how do you give, there's an energy give and take with the energy of a room, right? So anyhow, but people would be smashed when we would get in there already at 9. And I was like, well, this is going to be easy, because it's so easy to play to drunk people.
I can imagine.
They don't care. It's like good time. So yeah, that was the craziest because people would be like dancing and guys would be, because they're trying to show off a bit with their associates, you know, there's going like this and they got like $100 US bill for each player, right? So, and then it becomes a competition and we're like, okay, go ahead, compete. You know, it's okay because they want to show off. And then there'd be champagne bottles coming up and the whole thing, right? So yeah, I would say, and that was so fun out there, you know, and yeah, the culture was really interesting to me too, the architecture. And yeah, so that way, as far as yeah, it's crazy over there.
So who were the quietest audience, the most sort of serene audience?
Quiet.
Where would they be?
The quietest. Well, for a chilled gig was Muscat.
Okay.
Yeah, they were quiet in Oman. Like when you finish, like it wouldn't be a bunch of people clapping and stuff or anything like that. So it was pretty chilled out. Mind you, in the club itself, it was mostly guys in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what that was, just created the vibe itself of being like that. So in Muscat, it was like that. So yeah, I would say it's quiet. But I didn't mind. It's a chill gig. Like you could tell they were happy anyhow. Like they were enjoying. It's just they're not very, I don't know, maybe if they're just shy or something. I don't know. So yeah.
Maybe they're even more reserved than the British. You never know. There might be someone out there that is. Moo, were you going to say something?
Do you know how many countries you've been to?
I didn't count. I
A
should have
lot.
wrote it. I should have wrote it down. Let's see. Malaysia, Indonesia, China, Philippines, Morocco,
He hasn't been to England though.
Poland, Switzerland, Germany. Where else? UAE, Bahrain.
Well, I've got one of those scratch off world
Maps.
maps. I'm letting you know, Jeff, that you're never going to see it. You're not scratching off where you've been because I'll have nothing left to see.
Oh, 12.
It's like a scratch off
12.
thing.
But
12.
No, but not
Amazing.
England. So when are you going to come and play for us?
Yeah.
You need to come to England, yes.
And Wales.
Or
Well, I
Wales.
sorry.
I was going
I've
to
been-
say
I've
or Wales.
Well, the Welsh aren't allowed anywhere, so we don't count them.
I've been through England quite a bit though, through the
At
airport.
Heathrow. That
Oh,
doesn't
the
Yeah.
count.
airport. Yeah.
But you've got some English in you, haven't
And
you?
Wales. Yeah. My last name's Monkman, so that it originates from Yorkshire area, right? My grandpa and that. So, and my other grandpa, my mom's side actually had Welsh in him. So
There you go. So you need to come to England and Wales.
But when
Yeah,
when I travel around the country, that's what the point I was kind of making about the audiences. The best place to play in the UK, South Wales clubs. They are the best.
There you go.
Wow.
They're ready to have a party as soon as they're just ready for you, and they're up there and they're with it and they're on it and they love you to bits. No matter, they just love you, and they were the best people in the whole country who ever played to.
that's the best
Shell.
feeling in the world too, right? It's like
Shell,
it's the
you've got to
best.
make this happen. They're going to duet. And
Yeah.
we're going to
Okay.
be first to see them in South Wales.
Not in
There you
Brecon
go.
though, because it's not big enough.
No, you'll have to travel a bit down south and just
Yeah.
find somewhere.
Oh, very little. No.
Ah,
Well, unless there are any other questions, or Jeff, have you got anything that you'd like to ask us or anything else that you'd like to talk about? I am
Well,
going to wrap things up in a moment with a quick quote. Were you going to say something, Jeff?
Well, I just was gonna say, if there's any questions with hotels, like are you interested in which hotel chains? Like in my opinion, I have certain hotel
Yeah,
chains that
go
I prefer,
ahead.
Go
and
for it.
especially with the travel company, I
Yeah.
imagine that.
Other hotel chains are available, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Go on, tell us.
well, my favorite ones were just for accommodations and stuff, and that's getting into your end of it. For accommodations, my favorite ones were like the Shangri-La or the Sofitels were really nice
That's
too.
where I met you. So
You know, so those would be, and Hilton, like, so that would be the top three. So I just thought I'd mention that because of
Thank you. Yeah.
that I experienced. So
Jeff,
And
does
don't
actually
forget,
have a hint.
everyone, we can get huge discounts as you, when you're a member with our club, you get huge discounts at all of those. Go on, Moo.
I think Jeff did a flight and he had a hint about stopovers and things. You'd like to tell us about that?
oh, well, yeah, I was going to mention, you know, another thing is to always check with your airline to see, because if there is a delay or a layover that's over 8 hours, I think they're implementing it more now with a lot of airlines, prior to COVID, obviously. But it wasn't until, you know, if you're in the airport and there's some kind of delay and it's, you know, obscene amount of time to be waiting in the airport, like 8, 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever, a day, always check with the concierge desk, because a lot of airlines that I didn't know this, even my agent didn't know. It was only because I checked, because I had asked, where can I stay for the next 12 hours? Is there a hotel close to the airport, blah, blah, whatever. Well, some airports have hotels right in them. And they'll go ahead, or if it is outside the hotel, they'll shuttle you. You'll go to the concierge desk, basically tell them your situation. For instance, Royal Air Morocco, was it, or Malaysian Airlines? Anyways, both of them did this. South China Airlines as well does that. But if you go there, they'll give you a little sticker, you'll get registered, they'll shuttle you off, you'll get a free stay. Right?
Brilliant.
So
That's good.
Always useful
That's
to know.
good.
Well, they want, you know, really, it's good for, you know, I don't know if it's just through sponsorship or whatever, but it's good because I'm sure they don't want a bunch of people just waiting around in the airport too, you know, for 10, 12 hours. And what do you do, right? I mean, and whether you want to shell out, because some of these hotels too, like say for instance, in Hong Kong, I went to go see about that. They didn't offer that. So basically, where was I going to stay? So I asked, you know, right away, I went to, and stuff like that. And it was like $500 to $600. And I thought, well, I'm not shelling out that kind of money. Right?
Yeah. And we know.
Oh, yeah. So I figured out. Yeah, I thought, I'm not shelling out that kind of cash. So basically, they have other lounges too that you can stay for 4 to 6 hours and stuff like that, and which the rates aren't too bad. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that if you're ever in a situation like that, go ahead and check with a concierge desk if it's a long layover or whatever delay, just in case, because you might get a free room just to, at least you got somewhere to go sleep for 6 hours, 8 hours, whatever.
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily think of doing that. So that's really good advice. Thank you, Jeff. That's fantastic.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So I'm going to end now on a quick quote from Plato. I think you'll like it.
What band is that, Paula?
Pardon?
What band is that?
I don't know. You probably sang with them, Daryl. Music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything.
Oh, love
and
it.
I know all of us on here are really passionate about our music, and we're really passionate about our travel as well. So it's been an absolute honor to hear you talking about what you've been up to, Jeff, and all the different adventures that you've had. So thank you very much for tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And thank you, ladies. If anyone has any questions at all, please drop them in the comments on Facebook, and we can pass them on to Jeff. That's no problem. Thank you very much for tuning in. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.